Sixth grade lesson 3.2 is comparing and ordering integers. I sort of alluded to this in the previous lesson, that this is coming our way and how I think of it in terms of owing money or having money, and that helps me. So we'll use that skill, hoping that it helps you as well. So when we compare numbers, positive and negative, this is the way my brain functions. I think of positive numbers as the money that I have in my pocket and negative numbers as the money that I owe. So we are less than the further we go this way, and we are greater than the further we go this way. This part, the greater than part over here, and less than on this section, your brain fully understands. You've been practicing that for years. This part is going to take a little bit of wrestling for your brain before it gets to the same stage as this. But if you think of this as owing money, and then you can always ask yourself, well, which is better? If I'm comparing -4 to -2, like I did in the previous lesson, think of it in terms of, well, what's worst? What's less good for me? Owing $4 or owing $2? And when you think of it that way, then you're like, oh, it's worse to owe $4. That's less. That's less money because I've got to pay it back, right? So, or -2 is greater than -4 because it would be better for me to owe 2 than it would for me to owe 4. So if that helps you as we go through this lesson, you can think of it that way too. But let's go ahead and get this lesson started. All right, so our first unlock the problem, our first example talks about a football game again. Football games, I think, are easy ways for them to explain negative numbers because you go backwards and that's negative. So that's probably why they use it. We'll read it first because our steps are to read the problem, underline what's being asked, circle the information they gave us, draw it if you need to, and then calculate or solve it. So we'll read it. On one play of the football game, the ball changed position by -7 yards, a loss of 7, right? On the next play, the ball changed position by -4 yards, a loss of 4. Well, let's compare -7 and -4. So let's underline what they want us to do. They want us to compare -7 and -4, which is greater, which is less. Let's circle the information we are given. We are given the ball changed position by -7 yards, so they lost 7 yards. And it also changed position by 4 yards, or lost 4 yards. And if we need to draw the football field, that is a football field, by the way. They started here and they lost 7 yards. And in this next scenario, they started, well, let's use the same. Maybe that will be less confusing. We'll use a different color. On the second play, they started here and lost 4 yards. Not as much yards lost, but still yards lost. Let's go ahead and use a number line to flesh this out a little bit. So here they've given us a number line. Here is 0. Now, 0 doesn't always have to be right in the middle because these arrows mean that the number line goes on and on forever. So you could zoom your number line when you create it in to the area that you need to focus on. And since we're living in the negative world here, notice they slid this 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positive over here, over a little bit on the number line, and we zoomed more into here. So here is 0. We always orient ourselves with whatever number line's thrown at us. Then we have negatives counting by ones, -1, 2, 3, 4, -5, -6, etc. Let's graph where these are on the number line. -7 is right here. And -4 is right here. Okay. Remember, the more negative we go, the less value something has. And the more to the right we go, the greater value something has. Thinking of the money again, this is $5 in my pocket. This is owing $10. So this is way worse, right? If I'm comparing these two, though, if I had to choose owing $7 or owing $4, which is better or greater for me? Owing $4 is greater for me compared to owing 7, right? So we get those alligator mouths out, and we'll go ahead and put the comparison here. What are we comparing? And we've decided that owing 4 is better than owing 7. -4 is greater than -7. Alligators go to the greater number because they like to eat more. So there we go. That is our comparison, -7 and -4. So in our next example, number lines can be vertical as well. And when they are vertical, you'll have 0, and then everything that goes upwards from 0 is positive up into the air above sea level, right? And anything that's negative goes downward. And so that would be things like below sea level or digging into the ground or something like that. So I always think of 0 as either sea level or the ground, and then positives are above it and negatives or below it. Are below it. And they gave us a list of temperatures, coldest temperatures in 2007 for these different places: Anchorage, Alaska; Boise, Idaho; Duluth, Minnesota; Los Angeles, California; Memphis, Tennessee; and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And they are asking us to first graph what each of those represent on the number line. And then they want us to write down the order of the temperatures from least to greatest. So I'm going to orient myself with my number line in terms of what is the least and what is the greatest. The lower that temperature goes, the lower or the more cold it becomes. So least would be continuing down this way, and greatest is going to get warmer and warmer, is going this way. So let's go ahead and start by graphing and labeling each of these numbers. Let's start with Anchorage, Alaska. Anchorage, Alaska was negative 17 degrees as the lowest temperature. That's cold. I can't even imagine what that would feel like. Negative 17, so I'm 0. I'm going to go negative 10. That would be 15, so right about there-ish would be negative 17. And I'm going to put AK for Alaska, just so I know which one that is, because otherwise I'll get confused. Boise, Idaho was 7 degrees positive. So here I am at 0. I'm looking at this one. Here I'm at 0. It's not 10, so this would be 5, and a little bit more, 2 more. So right about there-ish. I'm going to mark that. And I'm going to put ID for Idaho. Next one to graph is Duluth, Minnesota. That one is a negative 25. Start at 0, and we're going negative 10, negative 20, and 25. And that is Minnesota, so I'm going to put MN there. Next, Los Angeles, California. Much better. Still, that would be cold to me. 35 positive would still feel cold to me, but it's way better than these. So here I'm at 0. There's 10, 20, 30, and then 35 would be right there. That's California. That's why I live in California, because I can't take the cold. Memphis, Tennessee, lowest temperature was 18 degrees. Oopsie, I didn't mean to mark on that. 18 degrees positive. So starting at 0, 10, 15, 16, 17, 18, right around there. Tennessee. And finally, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, negative 5 would be right here between the 0 and the negative 10. Negative 5 would be right there. All right, there we are. Then they asked us to order them least to greatest. Well, now that they're on the number line, it's ordered for me. I just have to move my way up the number line, least to greatest. So I go ahead and list them. Minnesota. Then next is Anchorage, Alaska. Next is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
What? Oh my God.
Then Boise, Idaho. Then Memphis, Tennessee. And finally, Los Angeles, California. Least or coldest in this case to greatest. Always pay attention to what they ask. Sometimes they ask, that's warmest by the way, sometimes they ask greatest to least, so always be aware what they ask you so you don't get it backwards. But once you get it on the number line, you can see that was easy once we put it on a number line, because then it's already ordered for us. So that's this lesson this week. or this particular lesson, one of the lessons we're covering this week. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Seek me out for help if you need it.